Welcome to the Dash Mindset Podcast. I'm Sherry Zievenbergen. You were born, you're gonna die, and your adventure is your dash in between. So make the most of it. Unlock your potential in all aspects of your dash by embracing your uniqueness and living in a way that's authentic to you, not by doing more things, but by focusing on the right things. I'm a former corporate leader turned coach who's on my own journey, and I'm passionate about helping you on your journey too. So on the podcast, we'll explore how to live authentically by deciphering who you truly are and what you truly want. Are you ready to take a step toward designing your dash? Someday doesn't actually exist, so let's do it now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dash Mindset Podcast. So excited to have you here today, and I'm excited to have Lindsay Leahy here with us. Lindsay is the author of the book, Take It All Apart, How to Live, Lead, and Work with Intention, which was just released October 15th in 24. And she is the founder of the Restoration Project here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And I'm just so excited to have her here today. She and I are on the same page about a lot of things, and it's just going to be so fun to have her here. So, Lindsay, thank you so much for being here. I would love for you to share the journey you've been on. And let's start with the high-level overview of what you do. Tell us about what you do, the Restoration Project, all the things.
Thank you so much for having me here and just for creating this fun, amazing space for us to reflect on life, leadership, and the importance of creating a life that we want to live. Sherry, you are such a model for that, and I'm really grateful to be a guest on the podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so what do I do? So I guess I'll start with the Restoration Project. So we're a women-owned coaching and consulting business, and we really invite leaders at an individual, a team, and an organizational level to look at identity and intentions. So who are we at our best, and who do we want to be, and how do we live that out day to day? So bringing culture, strategy, and leadership all together, or at an individual level, like looking at our life, our leadership, and our work all as a whole, and how are we as a human participating in those areas, and what does good look like? Because for each of us, that's very different. So we've got a team of 4 ladies. Most of us are Mount Mercy grads too. Go Mustangs. And we, I'd say half of our practice is working one-on-one, coaching people one-on-one. And then the other half of our practice is more working with teams and broader organizations.
Love it. And you do a lot of events and summits and those kinds of things.
Yes. Yeah. You know that, we like to think that the best and deepest work that we have to do as leaders is really looking inside of ourselves. But that's not traditionally what we think about when we think about leadership development. It's more about skills. And so we try to give people a taste of what that reflection and exploration journey looks like through lunch and learns and workshops. And then if they want to go deeper, that's when we invite them into some of these group coaching and individual coaching experiences.
Okay. And you started it. Remind me when you started it.
2019, right before COVID. Yep.
Perfect timing. I'm with you on that. I know. Let's start something right before a global pandemic. That'll be perfect. But it's turned out great. That's fantastic. Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey? And as I ask that question, I'm going to interrupt you actually already. So you went to Mount Mercy with Sarah and Brooke. Is that right? So I'd
Correct.
love to know a little bit about that and how that, if you could incorporate that into your journey too.
Sure. So that's where I met Sarah. So I'll kind of start with college. I didn't really know, when I graduated high school, what I wanted to do or who I wanted to be. And at one point, one of my professors was just like, Linz, you got to pick something so you can get out of here and graduate. That's my MO is like, I want to try all the things. I want to do all the things and explore all the options. So I feel for the kids, especially graduating today. There's millions of options, and to know what you're supposed to do. I just, looking back, wish somebody would have said to me, just graduate with your degree and know that over time you're going to acquire skills and experiences that are going to inform what you do next, and don't put so much pressure on yourself. But I'll never forget, I met Sarah. So I was kind of a wild child in college and partying and, just crazy person. And then
that is so funny for me to even, I can't imagine what that looks like. But anyway, I'll believe you.
Yeah,
I guess.
there's a whole nother version of Lindsay that you've never met. I will tell you that. But I showed up to these marketing classes, and there's this very put together, perfectly organized, good vibes, great hair woman in Sarah that just was my total opposite, just like this steady, polished. I just loved her. But then the wild card for me was she was always carrying a box of Life cereal around on campus with her because that was her snack. Yeah, that was you'll have to ask her. So I'm just instantly attracted to her because she's all the things that I'm not. And I'm just like, this girl, she's so smart. She's so well-spoken. Like, there's no way she would want to be friends with me. But I just started talking to her in class, and then we just kind of stuck with each other. She's one of my very few friends that I have carried through all these different seasons of life. So we've been friends since 2005, I think. And then just kind of journeyed through life together as friends. But when I started the restoration project, then it was during that first year that she was thinking about doing something different. And we were just chatting, and she's like, hey, I'm looking to do a career pivot. And what she wanted to do was more of the behind the scenes support. And that's what I needed. And so she came on board. And it was a similar story with Brooke. We didn't meet at Mount Mercy. But because we had that tie, somebody introduced us. And in 2020, she also was making a career pivot, had let go of the coffee shop, and was just like, I think I want to do this coaching thing with you. And I was like, great, because I have no idea what I'm doing. And so we just all came together as friends and have really figured out how to build this thing together and just trusted each other to challenge each other and let it evolve. And it's been amazing.
Okay. So well, first of all, I have to go back to Sarah carrying a box of cereal around campus. That is so funny. And I should share, I worked with Sarah long, long ago, and before her career pivot, and she's just always had the best hair. I mean,
the best hair.
That's
hair. What she's known for. Really, yes.
She really, yeah. And she just has this calm about her. So I can envision me walking into a class, seeing her with her little box of Life cereal, thinking, what now? I need to know this woman. So that's just especially funny to me that she has cereal. Okay. So tell me about what you did between high school, when you probably thought, oh, hey, I should have it figured out. I'm doing air quotes because who even knows what this it is that we talk about, but I should know my plan. And so tell me about your graduation, and then how you went into corporate. You were there, yep. And then you made the pivot, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I ended up with a communications degree out of college, and I really have always had a heart for service, Sherry. Like, I thought for sure I'm going to get into the nonprofit space. But one of my advisors in college was just like, Linz, you're graduating with like $30,000+ of student debt. Maybe let's find you a good company with a good culture for profit so that you can make some money and pay off your debt. And then you can always do the nonprofit thing later. And I'm still to this day so grateful for that advice, because I think that's one of the things that we don't talk a lot about is like, all of us want a purpose-driven career and want to live a purpose-driven life, but there are steps to getting there. And just where I started, not having, funding for my own school and having to pay for it myself, like there were certain steps that I needed to take in order to see that come to fruition and be able to do what I wanted to do. And so I started at my career at Great America in marketing, Great America Financial Services here in Cedar Rapids, and doing like graphic design, editing work, writing work, all kinds of marketing. And after a couple of years, just got bored of that and was ready to step into a sales role is what I thought I wanted to do. And there wasn't anything open at the time, but they were starting a new business line. And I was like, okay, well, I don't really know anything about that, but I'm willing to figure it out. And so they gave me the job, which is so, looking back, I'm like, that was so reckless. Like, how did they trust me?
What kind of leadership?
And I had that like in that space where I was at internally. It was at that place of like trying to prove myself and fake it till you make it. And like, I got this, like just reckless abandon. I don't know, but I did. I figured it out, and we helped build this division kind of from the ground up, from 3 of us to like 50 employees and a few $1 million in revenue. And I was traveling all over the country and recruiting people, and I was in charge of sales and marketing. And so, I'm climbing this ladder and pursuing all these things that I thought I wanted: money, status, titles. And then I end up in New York City, and I share this in my book. Like, I'm looking out the window and I have everything and more that everybody said that I should want and have to be happy. And I was deeply lonely and empty. And that was the process of me starting this journey to take it all apart and really evaluate, what is it that I really want, and what really matters to me, and what parts of this narrative and this life that I've created are really Lindsay at her core, and which have been put upon her by the expectations of others or culture or whatever. And so for me, that then resulted in me job hopping a little bit. I left Great America. I did some work in economic and community development. Then I went to a CPA firm as their growth leader. And then finally, I started having dreams about Moses in the desert. And I thought God was calling me to be like a pastor, like hard pivot out of corporate, out of sales. And that's when my husband so wisely said, hey, we've done really well. There's something here that is not going to get fixed by you job hopping. And you need to do some work to think about what this is. And so I quit with no job and a promise to not jump into anything new for 90 days. And I hired 2 of my own coaches. And it was through that process that the Restoration Project and the idea of restoration being like, for us as leaders, we need to really understand ourselves and our beliefs and our behavior patterns and how those show up and inform our leadership. That's the work that I wanted to do, that deeper level of leadership development. And that's how the Restoration Project was founded.
That is fantastic. Okay, so I need to jump back to you being at a CPA firm. How did I not know that? What?
That was Sherry. Oh my gosh. I'll never forget the first week there. I'm like, you and I have similar personalities. I'm like, hey guys, happy Monday, whatever. Crickets. Like, nobody even responds. And then all of a sudden I find myself in busy season at this firm, and I have a question or a concern, and literally people would just put their hand in my face when I walked into their office, or they would slam the door on me. And I'm just like, okay, I am a red fish in a sea of blue. I have to take a different approach to how I work in this environment. It was so wild, but such a good learning experience.
Absolutely. Do you know, Lindsay, that I am a CPA?
I did not know that, Sherry.
What? Yeah, exactly. Right. Okay. Well, I should say I'm an inactive CPA. I don't know. Maybe I'd get in trouble for saying I'm a CPA because I'm not, but the CPAs. But what? Yeah. So yeah,
I did not know
completely
that.
Understand the whole hand up, the whole lack of a reaction when you say good morning.
Yes. I was just like, whoa, I'm not used to this environment as a team.
Yeah. Of this. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was so good for me though, to learn how to work with other people, people that are so unlike me, Right.
Okay. So then you went through coaching yourself. Okay. what was your reaction when your husband said, hey, you need to do some deep work?
I mean,
I realize that's not verbatim, but go ahead.
Yeah. I respect and love and trust him so much. But my initial reaction was defensiveness, right? Because that's how I'm wired. And then it was like, hey, you're right. There's something here, and I'm trying to fix it with externals when it's really. And that's the fascinating part for me, Sherry. We were just on a walk a couple of nights ago, and I was telling him, if I were to go back to corporate and in regular 9 to 5 or whatever, it would be so different now. And I know how to be happy in that now because it was work that I had to do inside myself. Now I feel like I'm coming to this place where I can be happy in any circumstance. And that wasn't it before. I felt like I had to leave corporate to figure all of this out just to come back to full circle, being able to exist in any kind of environment and be okay. Like this, I don't know how to explain it other than this year for the first time. On this journey, I've always thought the restoration project is my calling, right? That's what I've thought these last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then this year, all of a sudden it was like, no, it's so much bigger than that. Like even if the restoration project didn't exist, it's the inner work and the evolution of your spirit and the purpose of you, spreading love and hope and serving others. It doesn't have to be this container anymore. It's so much bigger than that. And that's been so freeing for me to discover. I don't know if that even makes sense.
So good. Yeah, absolutely. So the restoration project it's a container that allows you to do that. But
yes.
I mean, I'm not trying to minimize the significance of the restoration project, but I love how you said it. If it were to just be gone tomorrow, you would still be leaning into your calling. You might just be doing it in a different way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. And for me personally, also, it's been good because I've been the leader for us, right? Like of our team, when it was just the three of us, Brooke, Sarah, and I'm the strategic one and the one that's always thinking about what's ahead, what's next, how do we make this scale? How do we make this financially sustainable while doing business development for us in a big way, carrying the biggest book of business and all these other things. And I just came to a point this last year when I'm writing this book, like I can't do all of this anymore. But that awakening of I am so much more than even just this thing at the restoration project allowed me to step into a place of, hey guys, I don't want to lead this organization anymore. I just want to work with clients. And so in 2026, somebody new is going to be stepping into that space to be the leader of the restoration project so that I don't have to carry that weight anymore. And I'm so controlling, like there's no way I would have gotten there if God had not revealed this like bigger picture to me,
And like shoved it in your face, Lindsay.
Yes.
That's so good.
Oh, it feels so good.
You probably, given that you felt like it was your purpose, did you feel like you were failing in your purpose a little bit because you were trying to do all of the things?
Yes. And just the pressure. Like I remember last year, 2 different times so I see my own coach. If you coach with somebody who does not have a coach, that you should think about that. Like we all need our own. But he twice last year, he said, it feels like we're back in the same pattern that you found yourself in corporate, headed for burnout. And it wasn't the amount of stuff, it was the pressure that I was putting on myself to be 100% in all these different buckets, and the unwillingness to say, this is where my heart is in the client work. And I don't want to do all of this anymore because I didn't know. I was so worried about if I'm not doing it, who's going to do it? And if nobody does it, is this all going to fall apart? And that's where we have founded the Restoration Project on faith, which looks very different as a business model than founding it on, profitability or trying to grow to a certain size or something. Like I had to really look in the mirror and say, okay, if we founded this thing on faith, I got to trust that God's calling me to my book and to my book of business, and that I can let go of this and he's going to work it out. And until I was willing to let it go, he didn't reveal who was going to step in or how this was going to work out. Like, I had to let go first. And then all of this just fell into place, Sherry. It's so wild.
Oh my gosh. It's so hard to just surrender when you want control.
That word. I hate that word.
You want me to what?
Yes.
Okay. So I loved that you said, if you are using a coach who doesn't have a coach, that is something to consider. Because I know one thing that held me back from going into coaching was the fact that I thought, listen, I don't have all my stuff together. I don't have a lot of stuff together. What on earth makes me think I can help someone else with their life? But you can't see it when you're so close to it, right? I mean, there are so many times I will go to a friend who's also a coach and I'll share this whole thing. And they will tell me, Lindsay, and I'm sure you've had this too, they will tell me the exact same thing I may have told someone else earlier that day. Like, oh, so I should do what I suggested someone else do. Okay, right. Thank you for that. So any additional thoughts on that, just on coaching in general and the idea of coaches using coaches?
Yeah, well, so there's so much there, Sherry, but that has also happened to me, still happens to me to this day. So there are a few things that came to mind when you brought that up. One was early on with my coach, he said, well, Lindsay, when will you be ready? When will you be healed enough or good enough? And I was like, oh no, if I believe this is a forever process, then I'll never be there. Right. So that was like one nugget that stuck with me. And then I think he helped me reframe. A lot of us, when we're even in leadership, we think we are supposed to have all the right answers. That's not what leadership or especially coaching is about. He used the analogy with me of, you are there to create safe space for somebody to say out loud things that they may never have said out loud before, right? Because that we need to unlock what's in here. And then you are there to provide perspective, which is either a mirror or a window. So you can offer back to somebody what they just said as like, you know what you need to do here, Sherry, you got it. This is what you just told me. Or a window, hey, you're seeing it from this side. Maybe think about this angle or that angle, or maybe you could go this way. And when he said that to me, I was like, oh, I'm really good at creating safe space. I'm really good at asking questions. I'm really good at helping people with encouragement. Like, that's what a coach is. It's not, we don't have any answers. But just to your point too, though, I think the best coaches surrender to letting it evolve, just like this conversation, like trusting yourself enough that that person's going to say something that you might not have an answer to, or you might not be able to anticipate, and you're going to be in the boat with them and you guys are going to figure it out together. Like the coaches that I've had so many coaches over my, these last 20 years. And the ones that I loved the most were the ones that didn't have a program or a process. Like they got in the boat with me and things emerged and evolved over time. And they helped me see how I can teach myself and coach myself and learn these habits and practices that help me move forward while maintaining that their superpower is, like you said, that they're just outside of it. They don't know any more or any less than I do. They just have a totally different perspective. And that outside perspective is critical, even when sometimes I don't agree with it, Sherry. Like, well, I'll be in session with my coach and he'll offer me something and I'm like, I'm not doing that. I don't like that. Nope. But I like it's still, but that also gives me the inner resolve to no, that doesn't feel right in my heart. So I'm going to keep down this path. Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's not about coaching someone is not saying, okay, you talked for a little bit. Now I'm going to tell you all the things to do at all. And, that leads me to, I don't know about you, Lindsay, but through most of my life, when someone would talk about inner work, you have to be happy wherever you are, la, 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 all this fluffy stuff. I just thought, what, right? Mm-hmm. I felt like, okay, next you're going to tell me to go to India or Tibet or something and become a monk. That's nonsense. That is not on my to-do list. I have stuff to do. I just did not get it, especially, yes. and you mentioned this earlier, the whole, the fact that you could be in a different environment now, you could be in corporate and find happiness. Yes. It's not about the circumstances. It truly is just being happy where you are. I did not get that. So anything you can share about that, make it less fluffy for people?
Yeah. Well, I think that's what I tried to do with the book, is invite people in a really practical way inside. Because that's what I've been trying over the last 10 years of my own journey to, like, how do you appeal to the logical, practical people? And because it is very, to me, it all comes back to all of us have inherent beliefs and behavioral patterns, but a lot of us are not aware of, and beliefs meaning like the narratives. What are we saying to ourselves? What are we believing about ourselves, about others, about the world around us? And because of those beliefs, we make certain choices or we take certain actions that create certain patterns, right? And so I want people to really take a practical look at how is the way I was raised, or the family I grew up in, or the experiences that I had, how did those inform those narratives, those beliefs, and how did those beliefs inform my choices and my patterns of behavior? And what parts of that do I want to continue? And what parts of those are rooted in fear or are holding me back from being my best self? And then we have the choice to change those beliefs and those narratives, and then from that, make a different choice or take a different action that then propels us into this whole different world, right?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And by the way, I love your book. I haven't even mentioned that yet. And I love the way you ask questions, because they're very actionable, practical. Hey, here's how it works. And, the fact that you explained our beliefs and our actions and everything that way, it's very scientific. It's not like someone somewhere just came up with, oh, just change your thoughts. I think that's often how we hear it.
Yes.
But it truly is. It's science. Our brains are trying to keep us safe. Mm-hmm. So when we have this inner narrative and feel like, oh, I'm experiencing some fear, we listen because our brain's trying to keep us safe. It's trying to keep us alive. But we can actually change that. And you had mentioned earlier that, or maybe this was in your book, or maybe both, you felt like it was just the way you were wired, right? I know I felt that way a lot of my life. Well, this is what I got.
Yes.
I guess I will always have a color-coded closet. Sorry, this is who I am, right? And I still do, by the way. I'm not going to reprogram that. But it is possible to change, and it's not just fluffy. It's a choice that we make a lot of times. And not that we should change everything, but if we recognize when we have particular beliefs and we're doing certain things that don't serve us, hey, why not just change them?
Yes. And a real practical one, Sherry, that has impacted my personal and professional life in major ways for me is control. Like I have been a natural leader, quote unquote, because I wanted control. So on a really practical level, I show up as really extroverted, especially when I'm in large groups. That is because I'm trying to control the environment to keep myself safe, because I grew up in a house that was very volatile, where things were unpredictable, where there was screaming and hitting. And, so for me, if Lindsay can make herself big and can be in control of the conversation and the dynamic, then Lindsay is safe. Because I'm not actually extroverted by nature. And that was a huge, mind-blowing epiphany for me. And then in the work world, that just shows up as me trying to do everybody else's job, trying to tell everybody how to do their job. So when I have been able to uncover that core narrative, I'm not safe, or I can't trust anybody, or both, then I see how control shows up. And then I see what my natural, like I have to talk myself, Lindsay, you are safe. Lindsay, you can trust people. Like because I'm reacting a certain way, but I can come back to how do I change that narrative inside so I can kind of calm down? And then what are the patterns that belief shapes in my personal and professional life? And how can I intentionally make different choices instead of like shutting down or being super extroverted? I can just take up the space that I'm in and not feel like I have to control the entire environment, right? It's just I'm forming a different experience.
I love that. And I too, have you ever been, well, I'm putting this on you. I'm making the presumption.
That's okay.
That you have been considered a control freak by
Yes.
some people. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
I have. And most often the people closest to me, not as much in, other environments, but it's truly that it feels safe when we have some sense of control. Our brains want to control things. And it's so funny. I mean, logically, we know we can't ultimately control everything. It's pretty ridiculous when we step back and think about it, but it's how our brains work. And I think it's so helpful to understand that about other people too. So if someone's feeling controlling, oftentimes I think we start to doubt ourselves or feel like they doubt us. And that's not necessarily it. They might just need to have some sense of control, or at least feel like they have some sense of control. It's nothing personal.
Yeah. And the hardest part, Sherry, I mean, especially for us in the coaching space and in the corporate world, is we celebrate control. We celebrate when people have a 5-year plan and they're going to stick to their plan no matter what. Well, in this day and age, that thinking has to shift, because we're missing so many opportunities because we're so laser focused on here. And then the whole game changes, just like it did in COVID, and every year since has been so unpredictable that if you're making a 5-year plan and you're staying on that march, you are going to be in trouble. Right? So I wish that as executives and in the corporate space and beyond, we could understand, I want somebody who is competent. They know where we are and what's happening around us and what the variables might be. And we're going to take the next best step. But I don't want to celebrate that we've got everything planned out for the next 5 years, because that's dangerous. And we need to remember that in our own life, is come back to, where are you? What's happening around you? What feels right? And what's the next right step? And you might have intentions. I have intentions for how I want my book of business to look, what I want to happen with my book, Take It All Apart, what I want to happen for us as the restoration project, what I want in my life. I have intentions, but then I have to come back to what are the next right steps. And those might change depending on how the environment changes, major life events. You know what I mean? Like that, go out, but come back, go out, but come back.
Yes, absolutely. We can have a plan, but not sticking to the plan isn't a bad thing. It's necessary if you want to actually enjoy your life and be successful in the way you want to be successful. So now that you have found out that I have an accounting background, you'll be entertained by this as well. So I had a plan, because graduating from high school, I thought that's what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to have whatever that is, figured out. So I had this plan. I was going to go into accounting, and I was going to be a partner at an accounting firm, which I clearly am not. But I just thought, well, as long as I have a plan, that's the way it'll go. And I truly, because that was my thought process, when I realized, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to work 70 hours a week, and I don't want to count inventory at a grocery warehouse on New Year's Eve at 2 a.m. There were a lot of things I liked about public accounting. That was not a great New Year's, but I thought, what am I doing? And I was so lost, thinking, now what's my plan? Because I was so focused on that.
Plan.
And so I think it's great to have a plan and have intentions, but just recognize that things are going to change and it's okay.
Yes.
I think a lot of people are in their roles because, well, that was their plan and that they went into X or Y and, they feel like it's a waste if they do something else. And they don't have to just completely switch industries. They might just adjust it a little bit. Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like, your life has been a prime example of that, right? I mean, you had, I think what disheartens me and honestly, like, breaks my heart is what you just said. People get on a path and then they know that they're not on the right path or they don't like this path, but at that point, you're at a crossroads and you have a choice. Stay on the path and your spirit is literally going to die, right?
Yeah.
Or shrink way down, or do the countercultural thing and choose a different path and build the character and resolve that it takes to start over and forge a different life. And that, like, I've seen you do that. I mean, I was listening to one of your episodes and you're like, well, we ended up at this place in Spain, I think it was, because it was $360 a ticket. And I was just like, that is not a choice a CPA would make. Okay. Maybe because it was cheap, but like the risk of going to a place that you don't even know just because it's a cheap plane ticket. I'm like, something in here changed for you, Sherry. And you had the courage to, like, okay, I don't have to live by this rubric or by this. And it's not failure or defeat. It's like, I've lived my life up to this point in a certain way with a certain perspective. And now I've changed and I'm going to give myself the grace to think about it differently going forward. And the last chapter can look different than the next chapter, right?
Yeah. That makes me think, Lindsay, now I'm going to do some inner work here. I think I would have always, at any point in my life, had I seen a $360 ticket for Spain, I think I always would have done that. So I wonder, so it's sometimes we have these conflicts within ourselves too, right?
Yes.
Like and I'm totally generalizing as to what a CPA looks like, but generally, they're, not as talkative as me.
Yeah.
Well, I was a lot.
And it kind of goes back to what your guest Lance said about his career. He was on a path and then he saw, oh, that's not going to work out the way I thought it was going to. And then he became a pastor, I think. And then he got into that work and was like, oh, this isn't on a day-to-day. There were reasons why he went into that line of work, but the day-to-day didn't align to his spirit, right? And so he took a different path. I see so many people that think that it's failure if they're in it and it's not working out. They just stick with it anyway. And then they slowly just die and become a shell of a human.
And I think so much of it is because our brains are saying, oh, but we know this path, so we should stick with it. And if we move, then, and we have all of those, all that outside influence too.
Yes.
All those people who are scared for us. So it's especially fantastic that your husband encouraged you just to take that time off, because that's not necessarily the norm.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would love for you to talk about your book. What would you like to tell us about your book? I had so many highlighted things. And well, first of all, I got to say, I told you this before we started. Everyone should buy Lindsay's book. And I told Lindsay that I have not read all of it yet, because it turns out taking a hard copy book into the shower and brushing my teeth and stuff is not as easy as when I listen to a book. I can get through them so much faster. But I have read a lot of it and I love it. And I've highlighted a lot of things, which I think, Lindsay, I told you this. I was highlighting all these things and I thought, okay, am I just highlighting these things because it affirms what I believe to be true? I just love that evidence. Like, yep, you're right. You're right, Lindsay. Yep, you're right. But anyway, I would love for you to talk a little bit about your book and what inspired you to write it, especially given that you were leading the restoration project at the same time. How did you do all that?
Yeah, that was, well, not having kids, you have a lot more time than people that have kids. So that's
but
one
it's still
thing.
limited. It's still limited.
Yes,
You don't have 36 hours in a day. Yeah,
that's true. So, well, a couple things. First, the audio version is coming out in by September. So it will be on Audible coming up. Yeah. But second, why did I write it? Greenleaf, the publisher, had actually found my blog. So I've been writing a blog since 2017 or 18, and they wanted to publish a compilation of my blog posts as a book. And it was in 2021 that they reached out. And it was right about that time that we were talking, things were taking off with the Restoration Project. And we were like, okay, how do we want this to grow? How big do we want it to get? How many people do we ideally want to have on the team? And we just came to the conclusion, like, we don't want to have this huge organization. We want to have a huge impact, but how do we create this concept that we have for our individual coaching practice? How do we take that out to more people? And so a book just seemed like a really good idea. How we can package up all of the frameworks and the tools and the questions and the stories into a book. And that's how we can get other people to do this work without having to interact with us directly. So that was kind of the inspiration for writing the book. We really broke it into 3 parts. So the first part is rebuilding connection with yourself, with others in the world around you. The second part is all about restoring intention, which is thinking about what do you really want? Who do you want to be? Kind of setting goals and intentions. And then the third part is, okay, now we've done all this work. How do I take inspired action? And gives you a framework for putting that all into action. But I was just talking to another leader this morning. Part 1 is the hardest part. That is the work of looking back at our lived experience and being honest with ourselves about how that has informed our beliefs and our behaviors, and thinking through what parts of who I have become really resonate with who I want to be going forward, and which parts of those need to be surrendered and released or were built out of fear and limiting beliefs. And that's the healing work, and I'll call it healing work, that I think we need more and more leaders to do, because we're skipping that and going straight to setting goals and intentions, but they're from a place of a shaky foundation and fear, and not from a place of wholeness and a really solid look at who do I want to be and what really what makes a good life for me. So part 1 is the hardest part of that whole book, is coming back to quieting the noise, getting comfortable with silence and solitude, and really taking a look at our heart and our lived experience. And I really, people don't sign up for that, but I really hope more leaders will start to do that work.
So much of it, I think, is we are so action oriented. Mm-hmm. It's just, if I make it a goal and I'm disciplined enough and I'm focused, I should be able to meet this goal. Well, your goal might be something that it's not natural for you. So why do we push ourselves so hard and just allow that friction to exist?
Yes.
And beat ourselves up in the meantime, which worsens it even more. I love that. Your book, I'm sure, is just allowing people who aren't necessarily as comfortable with that stuff or the whole idea of inner work and all those things and you noted this, I think, at the beginning of your book too, to just do it on their own, take their own time, maybe, just get a taste of it. Like, what is this whole inner work thing about, and it is ultimately really helpful to have someone work with you on that, like you were talking about, and have the space and everything. But I think it's a wonderful transition to go from a book to, okay, now what do I do with this? So I just love the way you have it laid out and the questions, and like you were saying earlier, it's just a matter of asking questions. We so often ask ourselves disempowering questions like, why am I the way I am? Well, I guess this is the way I am, which leads us back. We're just in this vicious cycle. Instead of, what if I, interrupted this thought pattern? What if I could change my programming and not want to control everything or feel like I need to control everything?
Yes. Yeah. Well, and even I found this book. So like you said at the beginning, it came out in October of 2024. In February of 2024, I had pretty much had the manuscript done, right? We were going through the editing process at that point, but my mother-in-law passed away fairly unexpectedly. I mean, she had some health issues and had been suffering for a long time, but those life-changing events like this book, I come back to it over and over because it helps me come back to what really matters now, what's meaningful and valuable now. Like that, those life events change us in ways that we don't understand unless we make space to come back to those questions. And my husband and I have made very different choices for our own life and how we spend our time and our money and our energy since my mother-in-law passed away, using the book as a framework. Like, let's go back to these questions and discuss what's meaningful and valuable now. What does success look like for us now? There might be a chance that genetically he has some of the similar struggles that his mom did. So what does that mean for us wanting to live our life now and do some things now versus waiting until retirement? That's what I just want to invite everybody into. So you have peace and intentionality and clarity for yourself and your family and your career, because each of us only gets one life. And I think all of us are going to live that differently based on how we're wired and what our gifts are and what contribution we make to the world. And there's no formula for that, but there are frameworks and tools and questions that we can use to create that vision for ourselves. And that's what I really wanted this book to be for people.
Yeah, we have to come up with our own formula.
Yes.
And I think too, I mean, having been in the corporate space, I think I always, now in retrospect, it's clear, I thought there was one right way of doing something. And like, well, why didn't someone just give us the manual? So you're looking to other people for the manual, and we just got to write our own and revisit it. It's not, I mean, it's always a work in progress. It's not like, oh, today I've reached the point I have it all figured out. Yeah. I don't need to revisit this, take it all apart book. I got it. Right. That's so cool that you came back to it and that you're working through it together. Yeah. Things change. So that's wonderful. Okay. Yeah. How long have we been talking? Like 5 hours, 6? I'm not sure.
It has been a while. I think we hopped on an hour ago. Yeah.
Yikes. Okay. So I will let you get back to the rest of your life, but I have a couple questions for you.
Yes.
What would this version of Lindsay tell the younger version of Lindsay if you could go back?
To just enjoy the ride. Like, quit trying to have everything planned out, quit trying to know. And I think a lot of us are wired either to be stuck in the past or kind of stuck in the future and not in the present. And so I think to my younger self, I would go back and say, enjoy where you are right here. Look around you. There are people you can learn from. There are skills you're acquiring, and trust that this is all playing out just as it should, and just be focused on the next right step instead of trying to architect what this is going to look like for the rest of your life. Because God, Sherry, when I brought myself back to where am I and what are all the options here, God has just opened up so many other doors that I never even saw, versus earlier in my life, I was so fixated, like we said before, on that one goal and laser focused. I can only imagine all the doors that I missed because I was so focused on this one path. And so it's been fun to just like, oh, yeah, I guess I could do that, or I could work with this person, or I could go that way. And I can, like we talked about earlier, still continue to become who I am meant to become. It doesn't have to look one certain way. I can just have fun and add value and serve people and love people and bring hope to the world in 1,000 different ways.
Oh, so well said. Yeah, I think we go through, we think that we're supposed to go down a path, and then we walk past all these doors, right?
Yes.
Just, oh, no, can't pay any attention to those. We don't even notice them because we're walking down the path that we think we're supposed to walk down. Oh, I feel bad for high school graduates.
I know. Well, and it's just like, I wish we could teach high schoolers, and I've been trying this, and I think it just doesn't happen. You have to get there through lived experience, but like, listen to your heart. Our heart and our head speak to us differently. And for my whole life, out of protection, I think for myself, I was so focused on my head that I lost track of what my heart was saying completely and have had to relearn what that. And now when I walk through, even when it makes sense in my head, but it doesn't make sense to my heart or vice versa, like there have been times it's like, this makes no logical sense, but it feels like the right thing to do. And I do it. It's like, this is a miracle. Like, this is amazing. This is the path that I was meant to walk. It didn't make sense, but starting to hear and trust that voice again has been so life-giving and fulfilling. And I wish somehow we could teach people to do that at a younger age, like really intuit both your head and your heart and know how to bring those things together.
And unfortunately, like you said, I think so much of it is through experience. And I do think even knowing what you and I have come to know now, when I look at my 13-year-old son, I mean, it makes me a little anxious to say, just listen to your heart.
I remember a high school kid disclosed to me after I spoke at some event. He came up to me and was like, my parents want me to be a doctor, but I want to be a teacher. And I tried to help him through, well, what parts of these things do you like and appreciate? And how do you explain that to your parents? Because they wanted him, for them, success was make all this money, have this career. And for him, it was making a difference. And he didn't really care about the money, and he was going to be financially secure no matter what. And so when we teach people the head and heart thing, it invites a different conversation and a different level of learning that I wish I would have learned earlier in life to discern, like, okay, I wanted to be in the nonprofit space, but the fact was when I graduated college, I had bills to pay, And so having somebody, my advisor, talk me through, okay, if you can find a good culture fit, then you can feel like you have a purpose-filled career while still making enough money to pay your bills. Like, that's the kind of conversation I'd like us to see make happen more often.
Right. And, that's I actually meant to say this earlier too. The fact that you immediately thought, oh, nonprofit, if I want to make a difference, I have to go the nonprofit route, because we just have these limitations in our head, right? Oh, if I'm, if it's the profit route, I'm not going to be making a difference. I have to go nonprofit. It's just interesting how our brains work. And it's so easy to see that in somebody else, not so much ourselves. Okay, now I think we actually are onto 6 hours. So I'm going to ask you one last question. Okay. So where can people find you, and where can they get your book? I know they can get it on Amazon.
Yes, Amazon. If you're in the Cedar Rapids area, please consider buying from Swamp Box Bookstore in Marion. You can get a signed copy, but I also just love supporting local. And Terry, shout out to Terry. She's been incredible at helping me get my book into the world. But also Barnes & Noble online, bookshop.org is another indie bookstore supporter. So you can find it anywhere there. And then you can find more information on the book if you're not ready to buy it yet at takeitallapartbook.com. And then anything for the Restoration Project is the-restorationproject.com or at Your Leadership Coaches on all the social medias.
And for anyone who didn't write all that down, I'll put it in the show notes.
Thank you.
And I do highly recommend the hard copy, even though it's taking me longer to read than it would listen, because we talked about this at the beginning, Lindsay. It has this soft cover that's kind of like a little blanket. I'm going to just carry it around like a little security blanket. Which will make sense when you buy the book, everybody. But Lindsay, thank you so much for being here. This was so much fun. And it's kind of ridiculous. We hadn't done this earlier.
Wow. It happened. We're busy. Yeah. You're busy. You're traveling all over the world. I can't even keep up with where you're at. And I love that for you. I love that for you.
I'm finding $360 tickets. But, this is an example, too, of how we don't always see what's close to us, right? I see you all the time.
Yes. Yep. I know.
It's ridiculous.
I know. But this was so fun. And it was just so fun to catch up. And thank you again for giving me space like this to just chat. This was a meaningful conversation. So I loved it.
Thank you. I loved it. I had so much fun. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Catch up with Lindsay, follow her, buy her book. And thank you for being here. Thank you so much, Lindsay. Okay. I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Dash Mindset Podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player, tell your friends, and leave us a review. Follow me on my social media platforms highlighted in the show notes, and get in touch with me at thedashmindset.com. Share the topics you'd like me to explore in future episodes. Thanks again for listening to the Dash Mindset Podcast. We'll see you next time. Design and differentiate your Dash your way and make today amazing.